Welcome to the Investing Podcast presented by Tusk Media. This is Outsider Trading, an audio and video deep dive into the people, places, and things that we find most interesting in the market.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Investing Podcast presented by Tusk Media. Andrew Hall here, joining me Matt Krebsbach and Ben Niaway down there. First things first, check out these beards. Wanted to get back on camera so you could really see our growth.
We're third through this.
Yeah, I think my beard, I was just saying, I think my beard's starting to slow down. There's just not room for it. It's kind of like, forests, they eventually run out of space. We're back. We're going to talk a little bit about the election today and the results and some winners and losers. But first, hit subscribe if you're on iTunes, if you're on YouTube. Hit subscribe wherever you're at. We appreciate you being here. And check out our Twitter, twitter.com/TuskMediaLLC. You can go there and you can see the beard raising fundraising competition we're doing. So November. Also, you can slide into our DMs and intern Garrett will send you a free Tusk Media sticker. They're pretty awesome. You guys have some Tusk stickers or no?
I do. I have one on my phone.
There you go. Boom.
My phone's not on me, but I have one.
No, so we'll spot check that. So Krebsbach, how's it going, man?
Not bad.
Good.
How are you?
Doing well. Ben, morning.
I feel more rested than I did yesterday.
Yeah, I was struggling hard. We
feel pretty good.
We recorded a long audio pod. I think it's about 30, 40 minutes, something like that. Yesterday at 4 on very little sleep and a day of work, and I was up late. Real late. I was hurting.
And we pushed it hard through the day too.
Yeah.
It was a busy day.
Yeah. So we're back. What we're going to do today is we're going to talk about winners and losers of the election. First things first, in case you missed it, Donald Trump did win. So I guess he was the biggest winner.
Breaking news.
Yeah, breaking. And Hillary Clinton lost. So we got that, but what we want to do is really talk about some of the themes, some of the narratives, things coming out that through the lens of winners and losers. So let's start on the winning side, and I'll start down there with you, Ben. Who or what or how did things win?
I think Pennsylvania is a big winner. People are actually going to start pouring money into Pennsylvania now in coming elections now that Pennsylvania is a toss-up state. Because for the longest time, I guess it hasn't been red since, 1984?
Yeah, it's been a long time.
So very interesting there. And conversely, Ohio, I think, is a loser because, they didn't really get anything. They thought it was going to be a toss-up state, and it went pretty strongly toward Trump.
Same with Wisconsin, too. I mean, I think I mentioned that for the first time since '84, it went Republican.
Yeah.
Which is really surprising to me.
Yeah, and it was interesting. I was listening to a podcast, and they kind of talked about how possibly one of the biggest signs of the weakness of Hillary Clinton as a candidate was the fact that she actually did a lot in Pennsylvania, advertisement-wise, early and often. Meanwhile, she did nothing in Wisconsin.
Trump did a lot.
And the outcomes were basically the same, where she spent all this money, all this time in Pennsylvania, and they're like, it really didn't get her anywhere. I mean, that's where I think she had the huge rally the night before the election. I think that's where Springsteen and everybody was in Pennsylvania.
And he lost Ohio with LeBron and JR there. I can't believe that.
J.R. Smith. I can't believe that he's not having a better political year. So a winner, Pennsylvania. It's a good one, Chris. What you got?
I got my best winner is Saturday Night Live. I mean, they have some great content going forward here. I'm really excited. I think they have an episode Saturday. Or they
do.
A week
Dave
off.
Chappelle is hosting.
Yeah, that's right.
Going to be a winner.
I'm really excited for that. But their cold open or whatever they call it, that's going to be awesome.
It's going to be fantastic, and I think that Trump is going to be, as long as they just keep Alec Baldwin around.
Yeah, he's so great at Trump. He's one of the best Trump.
He's really, really good. So they're going to have 4 years of probably some ridiculous things to actually talk about, some ridiculous quotes to share. I think the other big, we got a lot of winners here, so we'll just kind of keep going here. Another big winner is the word persecution. Heard more about persecution over the last 48 hours than anything, and I think we'll talk about some of those people maybe under the loser section later on. But no, I think that the other winner, and this is maybe controversial because you could put it on the other side of the coin, but the Electoral College. The Electoral College got to decide some things, and now all of a sudden really, really up in the conversation, which is kind of funny because it's literally makes the decision every year, but it's a big deal when you have a discrepancy between the popular vote and the electoral vote, which is one that we're going to have possibly to the tune of close to 2%. It looks like it's going to be once they get all those California votes in. And along those lines, surprisingly, the polls were actually pretty close. I think it's really easy to
The state polls.
second guess that now, but the national polling average that had Hillary 2 to 3% ahead on a state by state basis, that's actually looking pretty accurate. Ben, you got another?
Yeah, that's surprising.
Yeah.
I could do it.
You want a winner?
Anybody else got any other winners?
Yeah, so I think Rachel Maddow comes out as a big winner of this election because, I mean, you look forward. So if you look at kind of on the same line as the Saturday Night Live angle, she has 4 years of material. So I think she comes out a lot better than even Sean Hannity. I mean, you could say that he's a winner because he has Trump's ear and Trump tells him everything. He's always calling Sean Hannity.
He's his text message pen pal.
But Rachel Maddow now has 4 years. She's kind of the poster child of the whole the anti-Trump movement, I think.
Yeah, and we've talked about this some in an investment meeting. I always wonder, when you start to look at news ratings, in some regards, I mean, news is generally negative in this day and age. In some regards, I do think more partisan news stands to benefit from the opposite candidate being there. In some ways, I wonder if Fox News' ratings would go down a little bit with a Republican in the White House, just because fewer people are tuning into hate watch. I don't think we'll get a case for that because we do have a really, really proven history of Trump being good, whatever that means, TV. So in some ways, it's like, man, they could really just run away with this thing. I mean, the networks as a whole, though, might be a winner because everything he does is a ratings boom.
Fox News has lost about half of its personalities though right now.
Yeah.
They've lost Gingrich probably. They've lost Ben Carson.
Everybody's going
They've lost
into the
Donald
cabinet.
Trump.
Yeah. Charles Krauthammer is still going to be around.
Charles Krauthammer.
He's got nowhere to be. Krebs, any other winners? What you got?
No, I want to ask you about the Electoral College and people complain about that. I see zero chance of that changing, right?
I don't think that will change at all.
Okay.
I personally am not a huge fan of it in this day and age, but it's also, what it was created to do, and what it was created to do is now being framed as a very racial issue. It's designed to make rural votes matter more, which tend to be white. But the reality was this was created to give states power, even small, less populous states, and to make sure that, a state with a low population in Iowa, just pulling one out of a hat, or a Wyoming, aren't totally forgotten and negated. And I don't see that ever changing because the people that would have to change it would have to be a constitutional amendment, and you would have to have, forget the exact breakdown, we were looking at it the other day, but an overwhelming majority of both the Senate and the House. And the reality is if that happened, you would also see a shift in the makeup of the Senate and the House.
They wouldn't want to do that.
No, because if there's one thing we know about politicians, it's like that they like their job and their steady paycheck.
Right.
And if anything, the power of the Electoral College has actually diminished over the years as we've added states. Because, before, when there were 13, there was a lower population. Each state was far more powerful than it is today. And, so those 2 electoral votes for each is not having that same impact.
Right. And I think, it's easy to say, the Electoral College really changed this. And it is. There is that gap, and you had one in 2000 as well. But at the same time, it's not a recurring problem, and when it has happened 2 times in recent history, it's been for very different reasons. And if you look at this, I mean, the real thing that changed on the map has nothing to do with the electoral map, has everything to do with the Rust Belt, which I think is another winner, just in general, that whole region all of a sudden. It was interesting, we talked a lot on the podcast yesterday about, the voting swing of people making less than $30,000 a year. And Hillary Clinton did still win that demographic, as you would expect. Just historically, the Democrats typically win there, but there was a big raise in Republican support among people making less than $30K, and I think most of that was coming from that region. So Rust Belt, the big winner, I think in a lot of ways just because we saw they had the biggest impact.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any other winners?
I have some losers. But
Let's go losers.
I think, everyone tied to the Clinton campaign is going to be a bit of a loser. But I didn't want to just say that because that's kind of obvious. What I would say, though, is someone who you probably don't think about, but someone who had a huge opportunity to really capitalize on the Clinton campaign, and this would probably be her last opportunity really to make a push. And that is Monica Lewinsky.
Mm.
You know, she comes out with a book deal. If she came out with a book deal either before the election or if Hillary won, that would be huge news. She'd sell millions and millions of copies. Now, you know, there's just, the Clintons are done. I don't think we're going to see Hillary run again until 2020. So I think Monica Lewinsky's a loser.
Yeah, now there's a whole generation that just won't care about who
Right.
Monica Lewinsky is or was, and that's probably not good for her. Because I would imagine it's still probably somewhat difficult for her to find real normal opportunities to live life, because there's still enough people that know her, but there's not going to be enough people that vault her to celebrity status.
Right, exactly.
That's a good one. A little off the beaten path there. Krebs, what you got? Losers.
I'm gonna go with losers. Crap.
Or a
I
winner.
still
You got
have
another
this.
winner? You got another one?
Losers. Losers gonna be gridlock, because I think now they have Republicans
Yeah.
have the House and Senate. I think they, whether you like it or not, they're probably gonna
Mhm.
get some stuff done
Yeah.
rather than just pushing Obamacare through.
And they'll have the Supreme Court too.
Yeah.
So that'll be a big one.
Yeah, I think that's a big one. Yeah, I think, kind of along those lines, like the losers are people complaining about DC not getting anything done. Because a lot's going to get done. You can still complain about what does get
Yeah.
done. Got to vote, people. If you don't vote, you can't complain. That's a big thing. That's pretty much what the Constitution says. Other losers, I think, man,
Did I take yours?
no, there's so many. I'm
Sorry.
trying to even narrow this down. I just totally lost my
I
train
think
of thought. so
Matteo
somebody-
Renzi. So I think what we're seeing is this movement towards populism just globally.
Mhm.
So what you're having we already saw Brexit. There are other populist movements in France, in Holland, in Belgium, in Germany as well.
Mhm.
And there's also this movement in Italy. So the Italian Prime Minister is Matteo Renzi. He is currently pushing for this constitutional referendum that would alter the Italian constitution to give more control to the national government, more essentially to him,
Mhm.
and away from the state and local governments. The polls have kind of been going back and forth very, very closely. The election's on December 4th. This continued trend towards populism, we're now 2 for 2 in populist votes. Very close votes, but
Mhm.
we're still 2 for 2. That would be a big loser for him because he's promised to resign if that constitutional referendum does not go through.
Which is, it's interesting, to kind of dovetail with that, the populism conversation and the way it's being framed. First of all, elections yielding to the populist candidate seems normal just by virtue of what that word means. Like when votes actually count, it seems like the more populist person should win because they're rallying the general support. So that's interesting, but also just kind of that, the way it's viewed differently, and the way it was viewed kind of over in the UK in terms of who benefited and who got hurt. I feel like in some ways is almost viewed differently here. The populist candidate is in some ways being vilified as kind of someone that has stolen the country and taken it away, whereas I feel like a lot of people, especially at least how I viewed the Brexit, was kind of like, they took their country back, like good for them. But here it's almost being viewed in this negative light, and I think a lot of that comes down to this group of people, big losers, Bernie supporters. Interesting how many young people supported Bernie early on. Interesting how many of them did not really get on board with Hillary and either went third party, didn't vote, what have you. And interesting how many of them are now protesting, the best I can put it, they're protesting democracy. I think they would say they're protesting racism and all these issues that may or may not be true to Donald Trump's character. That's a whole other week-long podcast. But at the end of the day, I think we're all fooling ourselves if we don't think racism exists, as an example, or sexism, or whatever it may be. But I also think we're fooling ourselves if we think people got a free pass to become racist when someone won an election. I mean, that's one of the more ridiculous things. So to say that you're protesting racism, I don't know that I totally buy that argument. Really, it seems like most of them, when they're interviewed, they want Hillary Clinton to file a lawsuit to become president. They want to get rid of the Electoral College, these kind of things. They're really protesting democracy. And what's interesting is how many of them were Bernie supporters and how many didn't actually vote. And so
I was kind of comparing this to like them complaining about that, but then also making an issue out of Donald Trump's tax return. Like,
right.
both of them are playing within the rules of the game. Like the
Yeah.
election, that's like the rules of the game.
Yeah.
Like that's how it is. Tax returns,
How it is.
claiming whatever it is, that's the rules of the game. You
Yeah.
can't like pick and choose what.
Yeah, it's
Doesn't make sense to me.
the tax returns thing. I mean, we've harped on this over and
Yeah.
over. Like, I don't.
So
I
bring it
didn't.
up again.
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't need to see him. I trust that Donald Trump was savvy with how he was managing that and was in the law. If not, guess what? The IRS would have got busted him. Like that's the IRS does that. I don't know if you guys knew that, but that's part of what they do is they find people who commit tax fraud and they go after. But it seems like everybody kind of wants the rules bent a little
Right.
bit.
Yeah. That's a better way to put it.
To kind of go along with that, I think a loser big time is people on social media. We were talking about this earlier. I actually think the mainstream/lamestream media is so befuddled and so readily admitting that they were wrong that they're not being totally obnoxious about this. Meanwhile, I don't think you really have anybody celebrating a Trump victory, marching through the streets. I haven't seen any, at least. I haven't seen anybody that's just really gloating, except for Ben, who won a bet about it. He's celebrating he won a bet, but I don't think he's,
4-1 against too.
Yeah. I don't think he's celebrating that, his life is significantly changed for the better because Donald Trump
That
is now
$8
president.
is going to make a big
Yeah,
difference. though.
that actually might. You're probably one of the more impacted people in this country right now. Donald Trump's not even there. So I haven't really seen much like, oh, Trump, go, go, go. But the number of people just openly hating Trump supporters and turning their blinders off and saying, oh, this was, racist white people, educated or otherwise, is kind of ridiculous when you start to look at the layout and the demographics of the people that voted. And a lot of them did vote for Obama. And they didn't become racist between 2012 and 2016. No, they experienced policies that they disagreed with, and they didn't want to see 4 more years of that. So they voted for someone else.
What was interesting to me is what you pointed out, that minority groups actually voted as a percentage. Trump won a greater share of minority votes than Romney won in 2012.
Like across the board, more African Americans, more Hispanic Latinos, more Asians, and more other. Like across the board, he did better as a share of the population.
Taking the other side of that might just be a function of Obama being a minority.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Like,
sure.
Like it's not, it's not Trump like being
right. I think that's especially lends itself to the African American vote because he obviously had much stronger support there as the first black president.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, and I think there were turnout issues. I mean, I think if you want to look at this, like the real losers here were Democrats that didn't turn out to vote. And I think there were plenty of reasons. Like, I don't get why you don't show up to voting. I'm a big vote guy, big fan of voting. I don't get the complacency. I mean, I vote in Georgia every year when the election's probably going to go one way every year. I still go. 90% of my ballot is unopposed every election, and I still go vote. I don't get the excuse for not voting, especially if you now so clearly feel so strongly that a candidate is only defined by being a racist, misogynistic pig. Like, if that was the only thing that mattered in the election, I would think that everyone would have shown up to vote against him.
Yeah. Another loser will be Trump media or Trump TV.
Trump TV
probably don't happen anymore.
Yeah. Might not. Might be on delay. Ivanka's going to have to run it.
Speaking of the whole Trump group clan, winner, Barron Trump, eyeing big statement, putting him right next
there
to his father. Melania off camera.
Yeah.
And
Bold move to ever have her off camera.
that's very bold move.
Another big loser, and I know Trump called him winner, Rance Priebus. No one has ever looked, we talked about Chris Christie looking like he was held hostage, at some of those Trump press conferences and things like that, and he really did. We actually watched Priebus get kidnapped on live television at 2:30 in the morning on Wednesday morning because Trump pulled him out on stage. If you haven't watched it, it's the most awkward thing I've ever seen in my whole life. He pulled him out on stage and he did this little preamble. He's like, who's a superstar? Who's an all-star? Rance Priebus. I mean, they've been butting heads this entire time. Priebus did not want Trump to be the nominee, but also didn't really do anything to stop it. Trump overcame him, but they still never really got along. It kind of felt like the GOP finally coalesced, at least to just formally, technically backing Trump at the time of the convention. But that wasn't that long ago. And I've always said he was an all-star, but to be an all-star, you got to win. you're a winner now, meaning I'm the only reason you're here, rants. I'm the only reason you still have a job. Pulls him out on stage. Not enough to get him on stage. Rants, say a few words. He had nothing. He had nothing. All he said was, ladies and gentlemen, your next president, Donald Trump. Walked off. I mean, that guy, loser.
Another winner though, the color purple.
Color purple.
Yeah.
Is that going to be a new thing since Hillary did that at her
That was kind of
her speech?
Yeah, I was kind of blown away by that. I will say, like, on the winner side, that I thought Hillary looked pretty good in the concession speech when she finally made it. Rocked
The speech
purple.
itself?
Yeah, and in the purple. No, and I thought Obama's speech was really good.
I don't listen to Obama's.
I would argue that Obama is a great winner here, and that's maybe a contrarian point because everyone's saying, well, the whole country just voted against 4 more years of Obama. But the reality is he's got to quit, right? His term ends. Already half the country wishes he was still going to stay in office. So that's a good thing. Always good to be missed when you leave. There's a good chance that those people are going to continue to stay in their thought process for the next 4 years. So for the next 4 years, wow, we wish we had Obama. We wish we had Obama. Simultaneous to that, he looked incredibly humble and gracious while commending Donald Trump. I mean, his stock is sky high. He's going out on top. So I think he's kind of a winner. Yeah, you'd love to see, Hillary continue, but then it kind of becomes, well, if she missteps at all, that's going to reflect poorly on me. Now you can kind of distance yourself from a legacy that I think at least half the country is going to view very positively.
I'm buying Barack. I thought he did very well. I thought extremely humble. I was very impressed with that. I don't know how you can be that humble. I don't know how really many people can be that humble after 8 years of being the most powerful person in the world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I won't be that humble.
Yeah. big kudos to him. I think he emerges as a big winner.
Other losers, the celebrities that say they're going to leave, and I'm not saying that just because they disagree. I'm saying that because like the over/under on celebrities leaving the country is 1, and I'm taking the under. Like none of them are leaving. We've seen this before.
It frustrates me when people make claims like that and then don't follow through.
Yeah,
if I was going to make a claim like that, I would actually probably do it.
I would actually
I just wanna make a
respect
claim
you
like that.
more if you did leave, and I think a lot of people would be like, "Oh, they defected or whatever."
Yeah.
I'd be like, no, they at least they had
Own up to
principles that they literally said, "I will change my entire life
Mhm.
if the country doesn't agree with me," and not to be the we'll just leave guy, but no, really, if you feel that strongly and you say it that publicly and you say it over and over and over again, I will actually respect you for sticking to your convictions. If I felt like my life is significantly worsened and the life of those around me because of who's in power, I would also explore opportunities to leave. I don't think I'd make a public statement. If I did, I don't think anybody would care.
Right.
But no, I mean, if you want to leave, leave. I think that I would respect that more than you saying you're going to do it and then you stand around and complaining for 4 years.
Yeah. Jumping back to the Obama conversation. So Obama's meeting Trump later today in the Oval Office. Do you know if they're having a joint statement or anything afterwards?
I'm not sure. I haven't heard anything about
it.
But
My base case is that, next time Trump talks, it's going to be, he's a great guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's been such a great guy. He's really helping with this transition. We're going to put our best foot forward, and I think that's going to be the message. It's like you give Trump a little bit of a compliment, and he's in big time.
Which I think people are really frowning upon, especially within the realm of Russian relations.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's the worst thing in the world if America is the most powerful, whatever that means, country in the world. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to kind of come out and say, hey, respect us, we'll respect you. That's going to be the tone we're going to take. Don't cross us, but let's all get along. I don't think that's the worst tone in the world. It seems very Cold War-y to me, to the people that were panicked that Russia likes Trump. That's this isn't the Cold War anymore. It doesn't matter. It's very Cold War-y to be panicked that we might actually get along with a massive country in Europe. That doesn't seem all that bad. Same with China. I think we could improve a lot there in terms of economic relations. And as Ben and I were talking this morning, that creates a little bit more leverage for you, and if anything, that strengthens the United States to actually have some levers we can pull if things do go south. I mean, I think it's insane that we don't have China keeping North Korea in check at all, and I think we could get there. I mean, I think that's part of why we're seeing markets rally, another winner. Markets, I think people were stunned by that, and yeah, that's short term, and you shouldn't read that much into it. But this is not being viewed internationally as a global recession, as Paul Krugman, loser, thought it was at 1 o'clock. I mean, that was unbelievable, the most unbelievable flip. In a matter of 7 hours, he writes something in the New York Times, writes an op-ed saying, we're going to have a global recession, and I don't know if or when we'll recover from that financial crisis. And then 8 hours later, he tweets a retraction. Loser. But no, I don't really know that like the world is viewing this as like a shut door. The U.S. is, this is the worst. They've got somebody that wants to reset.
Yeah, I think it's an exciting time. I think for a lot of people, very kind of there is cause to be nervous.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
But you don't have reward without risk, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. I'm really intrigued to see what happens with this cabinet, because what was pointed out to me was that you no longer need 60 votes in order to approve a cabinet position. Now, because Harry Reid changed that, so now you only need a simple majority.
Yep.
And
Thanks, Harry Reid.
so Republicans have that simple majority.
Yeah.
In the Senate.
So
So Trump can get anyone he wants in to his cabinet.
And that'll start to happen quickly. They were talking some of the logistics of this. So especially some of the positions that are going to need security clearances, they say that takes, I forget the time frame, but basically he's got about 14 days. They said usually like on average that takes 50 to 60 days. So he's got about 10 days to 2 weeks to actually get that filled if he wants the cabinet totally filled by day one. It's because he's got to get them through that security process. And I guess they can't really expedite that much. But so I think we'll start to hear pretty soon at least lists of people being vetted. I think it's going to be really interesting. I mean, he, by all accounts and per insiders, he's going to be very loyal to those who were loyal to him through the long haul. There's probably a few names on there that I'd like to see dropped, but at the same time, it's hard to blame him for that. This is his first foray into politics. This is the most successful first foray into American politics in history. But so in some ways it makes sense to like go with those who kind of guided you to this. I'm sure that's very alarming to people that are protesting or just dissatisfied. And I don't want to take like the other side of the coin. I understand the disappointment. I understand if you were a huge fan of Democratic policies, you're not optimistic right now, because I do think there's going to be a lot wiped out. Everything from kind of Obamacare to maybe some social issues, or certainly the Supreme Court. So I understand. I don't want to sound like totally numb to that. And it's great that you do have those convictions. But at the same time, and I think I would just encourage everybody to be patient. The one thing I would say is the thing that makes conservatives most nervous is that we're not really totally sure Trump is a conservative. Yeah. So in that light, it's not like we've got Ted Cruz up there and you know exactly every step he's going to take. So if you're a Democrat, maybe buckle up and stay tuned for the ride and see what happens. Any other thoughts?
No, we'll be back with some more market commentary.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're going to do more market commentary, get kind of back to our normal routine. All our podcasts and live coverage from the election, if you want to go back and watch it in real time, we made some good calls and some bad calls. Maybe called the election a little bit prematurely. I guess history will bear that out. We'll find out. But check that out. That's all on Twitter, twitter.com/TuskMediaLLC. Y'all have a great day.
Tusk Media is a subsidiary of Narwhal Capital Management. Ratings and reviews of Tusk Media content are not to be construed as endorsements of opinions, analysis, or services offered by Tusk or its parent company. The opinions and predictions shared here are our professional beliefs at the time of publication. We are not under duress from any of the corporate entities mentioned. This is not a solicitation to take any particular action. Although we are investment advisors, this information should not be considered investment, legal, or tax advice. We strive to be as impartial, insightful, and accurate as possible. We base our opinions, analysis, and calculations on information we believe to be reliable, but we cannot guarantee its accuracy. We can, however, guarantee that our opinions will sometimes be flat out wrong due to a variety of factors. Employees and clients of Narwhal Capital Management may or may not hold positions in the securities detailed and may or may not hold these positions in the future. A full list of all securities purchased, sold, or held during the 12 months preceding the date of this publication can be provided upon request. Unless otherwise noted, all data accessed via MarketWatch or the Bloomberg terminal. Past performance does not guarantee future results. A copy of Narwhal's Form ADV is available at the SEC's website, www.advisorinfo.sec.gov, or from Narwhal upon written request.